you can proceed, please, Anjali.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to the first session of NASA India Winter School program. First of all, I would like to congratulate all of you for getting selected for the course Secure by Design. Before we begin our learning session, I would request Tarun Krishna, National Vice President, NASA India, to say a few words.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, please.
Hi, very warm welcome to everybody here. I'm very excited for the onset of the winter school program for this year. And we're starting off with Secured by Design, hosted by Dr. Manjari Khanna Kapoor from SEPTED. I hope all of you are excited for this as well. And there's some amount of takeaway going from this course. And I'm pretty sure that this is something that's not really taught in your academics or such, but it's very important that something of these principles, accepted crime prevention through environmental design, as it's abbreviated, is something that becomes a lead standard as such in the future. Yeah. Yes, Devanshi.
Okay, Anjali.
Now I would request the tutor of the session, Dr. Manjari Khanna Kapoor. She is a pioneer of security through architectural design in India and propagates the concept of SEPTED and counter-terrorism through design. She is the founder president of Association for Building Security India and a director on the board of the International SEPTED Association. I hope all of you enjoy and learn a lot from this course.
Over to you, Manjari, ma'am.
Thank you, Beta, and thank you to all of you participants joining us today from across different parts of our country. It's very, very heartening to see that you share the same interest in this subject, which I had when I started this journey on this subject about 7 years ago. So, and I hope that I will be able to retain your interest in this subject and in fact feed it further, and we can together take this subject to greater heights and start what I believe is already a security revolution happening in our country and most importantly in our profession. So, so I will start with my screen sharing. And just today, what we are going to do is I'm going to feed you just the basics and an overview of what we are going to be taking up in the next 2 or 3 weeks as we go forward. And also, I would like to share here that originally, we had thought that we would do this session with something like 40 or 50 students. And we did not keep too many distinguishing criteria. Ideally, we would have liked to do with the senior people, the 4th and 5th years, even 3rd years, 3rd, 4th and 5th years. But we did not want to rule out the 1st and 2nd years of you who have joined and who have opted for this subject, for the reason that we want to develop the love for this subject, and we don't want in any way, we are nobody to reject you or to admit you or to not admit you. So I don't believe in those things. So there might be some portions which may be a little difficult for 1st years and 2nd years to understand. And no problems. It's not because it is your shortcoming, but it's just that the subject. So I will keep it as non-technical as possible, try to keep it as interesting and should I say absorbing as I possibly can. But from you, what I want. Now, generally, if we were to have 30 or 40 or even 50 students, I would have liked things to be interactive. And of course, the best interactiveness happens the smaller the number, right? So because of that, I did not want to reject, or keep out any of the interested students. And though we have 100 of you here, which is a very good number, I'm very happy about it. I would still want to keep it as interactive as possible. So I want you to promise me two things. We are meeting here. This is not your college course. There is no attendance. There is no exams. You have chosen this by choice. So keep your videos on as far as possible. Try to engage with me when I ask you a question or when I ask for responses. Raise your physical hands. If for some reason you are having a video problem or you're having a network problem, I can understand. You can raise your virtual hands. Okay? Is that fine? Good enough? Anybody has any problem with it? Let's set the ground rules now. Okay? Because you have to understand that it's very difficult on this medium. We have all been studying and teaching on this medium for the last almost 2 years now. And while it is difficult to learn from it, it is equally challenging for us as teachers. But you must also admit that we are able to have these winter school programs across the country with no restrictions of place or whatever, only because of COVID. So that's one of the good things that has come out of COVID, right? We have to admit that. Yes? How many of you agree with me? Let's see how many heads I see swinging this way or that way. Whatever. Yes, Asmita, you want to say something?
No, ma'am, I raised my hand that I agree. To your point.
Okay, great.
Yes,
all right, perfect. So it doesn't matter if it takes us a little longer, if it takes us more time, no problems, as long as we are engaged and when enjoying ourselves, okay? It has to be enjoyable for you, and it has to be, if it's enjoyable for you, it will automatically be enjoyable for you, okay? Second thing, I always like to get to know my students. I like to get to know what you feel, what are your aspirations, what are your things. And generally, I keep the first session for that. However, because there are 100 of us, if we start introducing ourselves and getting to know each other, then that will be the end of today's session. And Devanshi will be very upset because she would have aired this non-consequential, according to them, thing on their YouTube. So let's be fair to everybody. In this session, let it be an introduction to me and an introduction to this subject. From next session, for the next 10 or 12, whatever number of session it takes Devanshi and her team to figure out, we will have one by one introductions to each of the students. She will call out the name and you have to just speak about yourself for 10 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever it takes for you to talk about yourself. And I will set the ground rule. You tell me your name, your year, and the college you belong to. And firstly, what do you expect to do when you become an architect? What is your aspiration as an architect? Okay. And secondly, what is your aspiration from the subject? Okay. So, of course, you will get to know more about the subject as we go further, and we will keep sharing, but the idea is to break the ice. Third thing, when in my lectures, I'll be introducing some new concepts, some new terminology, some new aspects which are not traditionally known to be architectural aspects, but I will show to you that they are closely linked and our knowledge of those things are very vital. Whenever I introduce anything, old or new, whatever, if you do not understand a concept, raise your hand then and there, stop me and ask me before I go to the next point. Because if you miss a single step, you will come falling down. You will not understand the first. So the lectures are designed in a manner that one leads to the other, leads to the other, leads to the other. So don't be shy. Don't think that out of 100, I am the only one who hasn't understood. I'll share this with you more than often. When somebody raises their hand, it is generally something I've missed, and I'm generally grateful for that person stopping me and asking me to elucidate. So do not be shy if you are 1 in 100 also raising your hand and asking what may seem to you like a stupid question. Doesn't matter. Ask it. Okay? All right? Don't refrain. And besides the content, if you feel there is anything you want to ask me, you are welcome to ask me online on WhatsApp, or you can you can send me a private message, because I believe you're not allowed to message on the group that we have formed. Okay, so is that clear? All right, so now that the ground rules are set, anybody has any questions so far? Any problems? Any reservations? Need to go to the loo, catch some, have some water? Please go and be ready to plunge in. Okay. Because today is going to be an informal sort of a session only. All right, I hope all of you can see my screen now. I trust all of you. Just give me a second.
Recording in progress.
So can you all see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I can't see my own screen. Okay, I can see. Okay, so so all of you know that we are going to be talking about.
Sorry to interrupt, ma'am. Your
Yes.
voice is echoing.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to sort that out. Is it okay now? No, it's not. Okay, I'll sort it. Is it okay now?
Yes, ma'am.
Now it should be okay.
Yes, ma'am. Perfect.
All right. So, and as I trust you can see my screen also now shared. So, security by design. Now, what do we mean by this subject? What do we really mean by security by design?
Ma'am, before we start, can I ask you one question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So before you give us the introduction to the subject and we discuss the subject, can you tell us what drove you towards the subject? What was the inspiration behind it?
Yes, actually, that's a very, very, very valid point. In fact, I am just looking for where I had added that. Yeah, so I've opened the wrong, it seems I've opened the wrong presentation. So good that you stopped me. And that's what I'm going to start with. What's your name, Beta?
Ma'am, this is Shreya here.
Okay, so everybody please tell me your name before we really go into the thing, because that's how I will get to know all of you. All right, so yes, so very valid point as shared by Shreya. Now, I am an architect. I'm an alumnus from School of Planning and Architecture, Delhi. And I have been practicing now for 27 years along with my husband and partner. And in the course of my work, I have a sort of expertise in the subject of hotel design, hospitality design, and you can see some of my works on your screen. I've done all kinds of projects, but a lot of hotels in that, right? Uh, so uh, when about 7 years or maybe even more, about 10 years ago, I was doing this project for Aadhaar data centers, UIDI, the Unique Identification Authority of India, which is the Aadhaar cards. I was working with this very, very famous architect in Delhi. I was a consultant there. And we were designing what were supposed to be the first blast proof buildings of India. And these buildings, as you can see on your screens, these were being monitored by the government of India as their pet projects to be touted as the first most secure buildings of the country. Now, that's when I was exposed to this subject for the first time, and I realized that we were really lacking. Even though I was working with this really one of the biggest firms in India, and we tried our level best. We put in what we thought was really required in terms of security, but we realized that we were lacking on this subject. And despite our best efforts, whatever inputs we had put in, when the security agencies, which was CISF in this case, which came in to take over the project when it was to be commissioned, we realized that all our efforts were short of what was required. And also I understood that just like fire safety, security is best achieved when integrated in design, and it can be effective only when we have embedded it into design from point one. And whatever we had embedded in was either incomplete or inadequate or not in line with what the security people really wanted. So from that perspective, we realized that we are stopping short, and that's when I set out to look into the subject. I undertook a doctorate on the subject, and on doing so, as a result of my doctoral outcome, we developed what we are going to introduce to you as secure standards and rating system. And I am also using these in my actual practice. And on your screens is a hotel which is coming up in Delhi, which is going to be India's first 5-star secure rated building. So that should give you some kind of an idea of where it's coming from. Does that answer your question, Shreya?
Yes, ma'am, very much. Thank you.
Okay. So any further questions, be absolutely forthright in coming out with them. I'm glad you asked, and luckily it was my first slide. Okay. So now, do we all agree that being smart, we have to be secure? There is a lot of emphasis nowadays on smart cities, smartphones, smart TVs, smart everything smart except for
Excuse me, ma'am, we are unable to hear you. Ma'am, you are not audible.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
sorry, I think some technical glitch. Okay, so you can all hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we were at smart is secure, and we all agreed that security is an important. Now we have all studied about disasters, right? And we have studied about how we have natural disasters and we have man-made disasters. And most of the natural disasters like earthquakes, floods, cyclones, epidemics, and even pollution is mostly covered in our building codes today. But man-made disasters like fire, so you have safety codes for fire, you have safety, but you do not have any codes for crime and terror. And this is what constitutes security, and this is what we are going to be talking about. And to deal with situations like crimes against women and urban security issues, infrastructure security issues, and security of public places as laid down by different as global codes, none of this is ever captured in most of our day-to-day architectural standards or codes. So this is what we have set about to do, and this is what I'm going to be talking about. So my question to you is, what is building security? Would anybody like to answer that? Can anybody take a guess? What do you understand by building security? Any ideas?
Ma'am, the end user should feel safe in the building and around the building, and the accessibility to the building should feel safe as well.
That's very
More
good.
of a
But when I say the word building security, when I use the term security pertaining to buildings, what do you understand by the term? What is the image that comes into your mind, first and foremost? Anybody?
The CCTV and the security guard guarding the buildings.
Excellent. What else? So you are saying CCTV and you say security guards. Excellent. What else?
Maybe a
The
boundary
smart
wall.
locks.
Boundary wall around the building.
And somebody said boundary wall. Can I have your name, please?
Yes, ma'am, Rashi.
Right, Rashi. So basically, when we say building security, typically people talk of very, expectedly about CCTV, guards, even devices and machines. But very few people understand that boundaries and fences, gates and locks, and even the modern things like bollards are all elements of building security. And it's not just something that has to be done superficially after we have made the whole building. Typically, how buildings are designed nowadays is that when building is complete, the security agencies come in and then they put in these devices or they put in guards. No. Typically, building security must be integrated. It is to be an integral part of the built environment, and it has to be an integral part of design, which is why it is known as security by design in the UK by the Royal Institute of British Architects. It is called design against crime again in UK and European countries where they have a design against crime center. Design out crime in UK, EU, that's European Union, Australia, and design in security also, some parts of Australia they call it, and CPTED, CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design is the term being used globally and especially in the US nowadays. We will study these aspects in the next week, but I will first build up to that. Okay, taking you logically. So the security which is for buildings and the security that is built into the design is what we refer to as building security. Is that clear to everybody? Anybody who has a question or a query, please ask me now.
Ma'am, I don't understand how both of these terms are like different: security for buildings and built into the design. Like, are they synonymous?
Sorry?
Like these two phrases that you've used, security for building and built into the design, are they like synonymous?
Absolutely. So that's what we're saying. There is security for buildings typically, which you know is things which are added from top like cameras and devices. But that's not what we are restricting ourselves to. We are broadening our term to include not just the devices that are acting post construction, but things which are embedded into the design, into the construction, into the entire layout of the space that we do as architects and planners. Is that clear?
Yes.
Devanshi, you were saying something about the thing. Is everything okay? My voice and my videos, everything coming across perfectly?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, perfect.
Ma'am,
So-
if the
Yeah,
device from which your voice is coming would be shown in the YouTube. So if you can just adjust the camera of that device.
all right, I'll do that. I can't see my image, so you'll have to tell me if that is okay or not.
Can you shift the camera a little above to your
Let me
face?
try. Is it?
Yes, ma'am, it's perfectly fine now.
But my thing is not setting in properly.
Ma'am, it's okay if you can switch off the camera for your mobile.
I've switched it on. Is it coming or not?
Yes, ma'am, it's perfect right now.
Perfect right now, but that's because I'm holding it in my hand. Is that fine now? Or you want me to shift it?
Ma'am, it's fine, just a little towards your up till nose we can see.
Till nose, okay. So now you can see me on the main screen here, right? Wait a second.
Yes, ma'am, it's fine.
Is it fine now? Is it fine now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. So there's no feedback now.
It's echoing.
It is echoing. That's why I had done it on that, you see. Okay, so all good now? Now?
Yes,
Ma'am, you can mute from your phone, I think.
What do you say now?
Yes, ma'am, perfect.
All right, fine. So so let's understand what is the relationship of security with architecture design. Now, do you all agree with me that security is the primary purpose of all buildings? Now, we all know when man started living and started, as man came out from the Neanderthal man to the human form that we are all living as now, and they started living and settling down, they needed settlements, they needed enclosures, they needed shelter. Shelter from the elements, shelter from weather, shelter from other animals, and they started building their primitive structures. Is that right? So that means that security is the primary purpose of all buildings. So the primary purpose of us creating whatever building we make, whether it's a small hut to a big campus, the primary purpose should always be mitigation of risks. Yes? Yes? Can I hear yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and as man evolved and as man progressed and as human beings evolved, the security needs evolved, the buildings evolved, and the resilience offered by buildings evolved. So what was originally very simple became, as needs it became more complicated. They became forts, and they became these kind of palatial forts in India and overseas. And we came to a point where we stand today at the turn of the century, where we have the 9/11 incident that happened 21 years ago. And what happened here was that even, the building failed. And because the security failed, the building failed. And because the building failed, it went on to become a weapon of mass destruction. The building killed more people than the actual incident, the terror incident happened. So we have to make sure that even if the buildings fail, the resilience can never fail. And we must ensure that buildings designed by us do not become weapons of mass destruction. And so comes in the important aspect of resilience. And this resilience is the function of not just the design, the building, but its structure and its services, making sure that we resist, respond, and recover. Another shining example of this is our 26/11 incident in Mumbai. We will learn more about all these aspects that I'm introducing to you today in our days as we go forward. This is just a sort of an overview of what is going to come. Thirdly, we must make sure that the designs that we create, remember, number one point is that our designs should be done such that we mitigate any of the risks. I will be explaining these concepts more from tomorrow onwards. But at the same time, my research and global research shows that if this is not considered well enough in our designs, we not only do not mitigate the risks properly, but design can sometimes create new vulnerabilities because of wrong design, because of erroneous design, because of lack of consideration in design. You could be creating new vulnerabilities, and we have to make sure that that does not happen. Our design should not contribute to the vulnerability. Now, let's understand this a little bit better, just to, kind of quantify this with an example. Ki ma'am is not talking through her hat. Let's understand. Now, all of you have seen these kind of pictures, which are the scanners and frisking that happens at the entrance of maybe a mall or a cinema hall or any other public building. Yes? You can turn on your mics and say yes.
Yes,
together.
ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
So now this is where I explain how design can create vulnerabilities. Now, in most of our buildings that we design today, we are asked to put in these kind of frisking and this kind of checking portions. But do we ever consider, is it designed with ample space? Do we think about how effective this would be, how it would function? Do we ever consider that is there ample space for the machine? How will the machine be operated? How will it be serviced? How will the personnel who are operating this really use it? And most importantly, something that is completely disregarded, because most of the time this is being done after the architects have designed and gone away. The security people come and somehow just manage to fit in their machines, because of which we are not allowed to consider that is it the best experiential quality that we can offer. Nobody thinks of that when it comes to security. Is it at the correct location? I'll give you an example. This on your screens is the US Embassy at Lebanon. And here, just like many of our malls and cinema halls and public places. Here too, the scanning and frisking was happening in the entrance lobby. So you know what the terrorists did? They came, they brought the bomb in their backpack, and just when the bag was being scanned in the entrance lobby, they triggered. So not only did the bag blow up, but the machine blew up and the entire building blew up. So there's no point of putting scanners and frisking devices when you already entered the building, when you've already entered the structure. The idea is to do it separately to make sure that even if something goes off or somebody triggers it, it does not harm. That's the whole point. There's no point checking for a bomb after it has entered your structure. So the location is very important. Otherwise, the cost is catastrophic. And this directly will influence the efficacy of the security, the budgets, the performance, the ambience of the building that you're designing. And it is your choice whether you want to do things in the right way or you want to continue with the security theatrics which is happening around us every day. Do you understand the term security theatrics? Yes or no?
No, ma'am. Can you please explain it, ma'am?
Can anybody try to guess what is security theatrics?
Ma'am, I can guess.
Yeah, please.
Maybe because maybe in these situations where there's like no ample space or where the checking cannot be done like in a proper way. So it is kind of a like a theater, like a drama we are creating to give an illusion of security when there is actually it is not.
You are right. I'm sorry, I can't see you, beta, and I don't know your name.
Ma'am, this is Rashi only. Ma'am, there is some issue with my net, so the camera is not working.
All right, Rashi. So, Rashi, you are right. But do you know that this is an accepted term in the security world? When we give them buildings that they can't secure to 100%, when they are compromised, the security personnel have no choice but to resort to something which they have accepted in their world as a accepted practice is security theatrics. When they can do nothing else, they create, like you said, that feeling that this is a very secure and very well looked out place, trying to cover up and create an illusion of security. You are 100% right. And the sad part is that they have to do it more often than not because we have not done our part. And the important thing is that once the building is designed or approved or built, there is very little that the security fraternity can do. They don't even know that it can be done at the design stage. We are trying to tell them that yes, we can do it, demand it from us. But it's our job, our prerogative as professionals to make sure that we do our best. So moving on, we already know the top 3 items that we are trying to achieve. And we come to the decision that yes, building security is a necessity, not as an afterthought, not to create design lapses which will be irreparable, not to create design programs which compromise the performance, not to create expenditure which is unnecessary while we can save up to 15 to 20% if we think about it well in time. Also, we can avoid a lot of clashes like access control, which clashes with fire egress systems. Similarly, forms and materials are all part of embedded security. I will be showing you how in the next few days. And most importantly, it is our choice to ensure that the security is not ugly and fearsome and has a positive psychosocial impact and not the way we see it around us. Now, can you see on your screens? What are these? Can anybody guess? Or does anybody know? Anybody?
Ma'am, this is the Emirates Stadium, London.
Absolutely right. And what are these letters in front of that? Who's speaking?
Ma'am, this is Mohak.
Mohak. So, Mohak, I think you were part of my class last year.
Yes, ma'am.
Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
right,
Yes,
SPA?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. So you already know. So can you share with the rest of the class what this is?
Ma'am, it's put here to not allow the vehicles to move, go inside this path.
That's right. So just like you have bollards or other ways in India, they put those horrible yellow, those yellow guards and those yellow crash dividers. So this is a crash designed system. I mean, a sort of a security device, sort of a bollard. You can see bollards are there behind it in part, but these are designed for to keep vehicles out and allow only pedestrians in such a beautiful, creative, and innovative way. Who can do this? Only architects. You can't expect security guards to think up these solutions. It's not their job, it's not their training. So it's our choice to create what is good and beautiful, and security is no different. This is a form of passive security where we use building layout and form, massing and orientation, natural topographies and artificial strategies. We can use each and every material that goes into a building, the finishes, the structure, the services. Everything needs to be designed for passive security. And the best examples of that are the new World Trade Center building 1WTC, which was built to replace the two fallen towers, and the Akshardham temple, which we will be taking up in greater detail in our coming weeks to explain these concepts to you in total clarity. So that's the basic reason why we should be looking at this subject. Now, just to give you a glimpse into the subject, what do you see on your screens right now? What do you
Different
see?
kinds of doors.
Doors and
Different
gates.
kinds of gates.
Doors and
Absolutely right.
gates.
So they are, as far as you are concerned, as architectural students, they are all a quadrant of a circle with a swing shown on your drawings and your plans. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Right?
ma'am.
But
Yes,
do you
Yes,
see
ma'am.
that there is one essential difference as you go from the left to right? This is probably the most secure sort of door. Yeah, it's like a vault door. Then you have a home door, which is a steel gate, slightly less secure. Then you have a gate with mesh and grill. Then you have a wooden door with glass, a wooden solid door, then a glass door, then a total glass door. And as you can see, it is the security which is embedded in each door, which is growing from maximum to least. Can you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
So
Yes,
if,
ma'am.
as you can see on your screens, in that case, that security is embedded in every decision. What kind of door you choose, what kind of finishes you choose will be dependent on what? On your decision about the security. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes,
security
ma'am.
will sort of dictate what kind of door you will choose, what are the specifications you will choose. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
I'm trying to get across here, beta, is that this is an example of just a door, but actually the embedded security is there in each and every element of architecture. Every aspect of architecture will have a security element in it, and we have to be conscious of that when we are doing our design. So every architectural specification, every architectural element, everything, right from whether you have a glass building or a solid building, whether you have a skyscraper or you have a squat building, every decision is related to security and has to be looked at from that perspective also. So that is where the relationship of security thought is embedded in design selection, For example, this is an example of Akshardham temple, where we will show you how the embedded security is there in every element, material, form, and layout, and how that compares to an absolute contrast with something like the skyscraper in the 1 WTC building. So coming back to Devanshi, if I turn my system around, do you still see me correctly now, or is it spoiled?
Ma'am, it's fine.
It's fine. All right. Let's say I've tried to make some. Now also it's okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So for building security, for the purposes of understanding building security, as I had defined a little while ago, we look at threats and risks and in two major categories, which we like to call, we will discuss this in greater detail tomorrow. So I'll skip this part for now, and I will go straight to security. Now, typically security is said to have three parts. The first part is designware, the second would be hardware, and the third is humanware. Now, what do we mean by that? Basically, designware is the natural security, which would include topographic features, building massing, building layout, and landscape. Hardware would include all kinds of mechanical security, which would be electronic equipments, machines, gates, locks. And the third is the humanware, which is the personnel, the intel wing, the security agencies, and even the community efforts. Now, you have to understand that designware or natural security is a one-time cost. It's built once, designed once, and there forever and ever. So it's a one-time cost. Provided that you have designed it properly, it should offer least vulnerabilities. And so the security that you achieve by this system is permanent and dependable. Nobody can tinker with it, nobody can change it, nobody can take it away. However, mechanical security, even though you put a capital cost, you put it in, but it will have running costs, it requires maintenance, and it has some number of vulnerabilities, like, you can corrupt it, you can hack it, maybe you can do a little bit here and there. So it is the second best form of security. And the third is the humanware, which is, of course, which has continual heavy costs, and it has the highest number of vulnerabilities. It's easiest to corrupt, it is easiest to tinker with. So this kind of security should be minimized, and it should be kept least in your thing, except in case of septed, which we'll see, where community. But the three of these together comprise integrated security. No one can alone exist, and the whole factor of how we put them together is called security programming. Just like we have area programming, we need to consider security programming in our buildings. And just like we have other building services like air conditioning, plumbing, lifts, etc., same way we need to embed all of these into our mainstream architectural design to develop what is going to be a balanced security design. And this is what we are going to teach you how to do as we go further. Now, I will, kind of draw a parallel. I hope all of you are aware to some degree about how green buildings and environmental designing for buildings works. How many of you are aware? Yes, say yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
we are aware
Yes,
of
ma'am.
it.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I
Yes.
just share with
Yes,
you
ma'am.
that approximately 15 years ago, this concept was just starting in India. And that was the first time when we started hearing about green buildings and environmentally conscious buildings and sustainable buildings. And just like that, subject has reached today to a stage where it is almost like a prerequisite to any building design. So same way we see that security by design is also going to follow a similar path, and go on a similar journey. So, security by design is a building service. Climate control or passive or green buildings are also, there is a parallel there. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I did. Wait a second. Okay, I think I should be at the right place. Yeah. Okay. So now, when we were students like you, the only climate control we used to know about were window ACs. Okay. And we used to worry that our building elevations are totally, kind of usurped by window ACs. That's when we were students, the concept of getting passive cooling and passive climate control by ways of massing and orientation was first time heard of, and our teachers used to teach us about this and favor designs which used to kind of look into this. So the same way, I am introducing you the concept that security can be achieved, by we all knew till now, till date, before you came into this, you all knew that building security devices were cameras and gates and doors, right? But here I have told you that building perimeter and strategies are also modes of security, and devices and their integration into the building is also security, just like the simple window ACs graduated into complex AC systems. Similarly, security devices and all of these integrated can form our complex security systems. This entire science went on to become a huge full-grown subject in itself called solar passive architecture. And then concepts of embodied energy, energy efficiency, sustainability, and all these together have become now integral to design. Am I right? Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, and today we are finding that these are giving us environmental benefits and are critical to climate change. Similarly, what we expect is that through the popularization of this subject, as we tell you more about septed and hardening and other passive security measures, we will be teaching you about embedded security, resilience, and integrated security to lead you to understand about permanent, sustainable, and sensible security. And that is our aim at the end of this winter school program, that you should all be absolutely capable of understanding this. And how it is likely to benefit is, we will be talking more about this in detail in the further weeks, but it will save you huge capital costs. It will save major running costs. It will definitely give your clients assured financial gains and leave your budgets for better resources. And they will also, one of the most important things is that it will give you efficient and guaranteed and quantifiable security, which would be not just effective as a tool for public knowledge, but in the end will give mental peace and choice too. So the idea is that we incentivize security, we ease the enforcement, and rescue our urban environment from a lot of things that are going wrong with it. At the end of the entire thing, I will introduce to you secure standards, which are design standards and best practices, which should help you and guide your designs as you go further. The public knowledge of all of these and incentivization will make for major marketing benefits and financial benefits, and we will take this journey further. So in the first week, I will be talking to you mostly about counter-terror and resilience aspects. And in the second week, we will take up common crime and septed aspects of this subject. In the third week, then we will broaden our horizons and take secure and the application and the actual standards and how to use them in your designs and in your day-to-day practice as you go further. And so I will share, I have this video, but I think we are out of time for today. We will share this in the coming days, not a problem. I would rather open the house now for any further discussions, if we have any time left today. Devanshi, tell me.
Yes, ma'am. We can take up questions.
All right. So anybody who is still unsure about what you're going to learn, please raise your hands first. You have a clearer picture?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Any
Yes, ma'am.
who think that this is not what they thought it would be? You had imagined it to be something else. Please raise your hand. That's fine. If you did that, that's fine.
Ma'am, Himisha here.
Yeah, Himisha.
Ma'am, actually, I thought it will be more technical, as in you must be having prior knowledge for some coding systems and things. But now I feel it's more of designing it environmentally.
Mm-hmm. So, do you find this more interesting, or you were looking forward to coding?
No, absolutely, ma'am. It's very interesting.
Okay, I will come to your point also, Himisha. So, I am going to be telling you about the architecture part. But secure standards in itself is an integration of all three forms of security. So, the natural, mechanical, and personal come together under the secure standards, of which we as architects are most bothered about the natural security part, and maybe we are more responsible for the natural security part. But there is an innate need for knowledge of the mechanical and the personal part also. You get my point? So for that, we will also be getting a couple of our experts on that who are part of our ISAC team, and they will also be talking to you about those aspects in the third week. So in the third week, we will be getting some guest tutors along to help me along, and to feed in some concepts which are not inherently architectural domains, but you need to have some basic knowledge about them going further. So that we are going to get, right? Any other points? Any other questions?
Ma'am, I have a question.
Just 1 minute, Shreya. Thank you, Himisha, for sharing with me. Anybody else who had thought it was something else?
I have a question, ma'am.
Yeah, Himisha.
No, this is Shamla.
Okay, Shamla. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, ma'am, for the poor, let's take for the contemporary buildings or anything, the security would be affordable. Like whatsoever further we are going to further learn, it's going to be affordable. So what about what's your suggestion and takeaway towards the people who are less affordable, like towards such security devices and all?
So, Shamla, what is very important when we talk about security is the building function. It's not going to be the same for all kinds of buildings. You cannot expect that a Rashtrapati Bhavan and my own residence is going to expect the same kind of security. So one very important aspect of security is the appropriateness. You cannot, you do not want to give huge fences and guards and things where only I am staying. Okay. And obviously Rashtrapati Bhavan will not have the same kind of thing that I have. So it is very critical, and we will be starting our class tomorrow with this, that what is right in a security and what is not right. So we will take that up from there tomorrow, Shamla. Your point is absolutely spot on, and I will remember to refer to this. If I forget, please raise your hand. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Sure. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I'll go to Shreya. Before that, I just want to know anybody else who thought it would be something else, but it is turning out to be something different.
Ma'am, Shreya this side.
Yeah, Shreya.
Ma'am, I thought about urban planning issues. We hear about in urban planning, the crime can be easily can happen easily through some of the changes in urban planning. So I thought about that we will discuss all that things. So
You are
will
not
we that?
wrong here. We will be discussing about that. You are 100, right? We will be doing that. We will move from the micro to the macro as we go further. So you are not wrong. Stay tuned. We will be talking about that.
Okay, ma'am.
So you are not wrong. Anybody else? And yes, we will be discussing things like women's security issues. I think all the girls here would definitely want something that can make their lives a little more secure in their cities. And I'm sure the boys here are equally keen that their cities should be safe for their, for the opposite sex. Am I right?
Absolutely, ma'am.
Because in our organization, we find that it is the boys who are most driven to address the women's security issues. And it's a great, great, great thing. Anybody else who thought something else and it is coming out something else?
Ma'am, actually, I thought that it would be just related to the crime. I wasn't expecting the natural calamities part. So that is an add-on to.
Not going to have natural calamities part. I'm sorry if you got that impression. What we said was that natural calamities are already covered in our codes. But man-made calamities like crime and terror are not addressed in our codes, or only fire is addressed in the codes, which is generally an outcome of terror, but not the only thing. So we are going to talk about those things which are not covered in our codes. So it's not going to be natural disasters. Your original understanding was correct, Asmita.
Okay, ma'am. So
is that it? Anybody else who had wrong impressions or different impressions? Let's not say wrong impressions. All right. So Shreya, you wanted to say something. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I had two questions for you. The first one was you told us that pollution is a natural disaster, and I don't understand how.
It's a man disaster, not just a natural disaster. It could be called a natural, but a man-made disaster, pretty much like climate control. So you have air pollution, and you have water pollution, and you have noise pollution, and all kinds of pollutions which are destroying our lives every day, destroying our climate, destroying our environment. So they are disasters, and there are codes for that, right? That's how I had referred to it. What is the second question, Shreya?
Ma'am, I feel like this question is part of a bigger conversation, but security feels like this is a very important parameter that we should look into from the very concept stage. Yes. And this is not being taught in our schools, and I don't understand why, because this feels very important.
Okay, so you want me to answer that?
Yes, what do you think is wrong with
that question?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a statement or a question?
It's a little bit of both. I would like to know your insights.
So, beta, definitely, there's nobody else I think who feels as strongly as I do that it is definitely very, very important to architectural education. And luckily, some of my professors whom I was presenting to at SPA, when I presented these subjects, they have hired me, they call me, and I am teaching it as a subject as SPA Delhi. And the effort is to get this across to more and more academicians and college authorities. And I hope that each one of you coming from different colleges across India would take this subject to your teachers. Wherever I have a reach, I am already pushing for this, but I can only do so much. And generally authorities and people they have so many subjects, kisko accommodate kare. So isliye this is why you have the opportunity of learning it here through NASA. And I'm sure there'll be many other platforms, and gradually with your joining hands with us, we will have more and more percolation across the country. That's the idea. There was one more person with Shreya who had raised his hand. Now he's taken the hand down and vanished. I don't know who it was. Does anybody remember?
Ma'am.
Yeah, Shashank, tell me.
Ma'am, even I thought the subject was going to be different, but I didn't had much idea about it. I found it interesting, and I hope to learn as much as I can.
Thank you, Shashank. And I hope whatever you have heard so far has piqued your interest or not.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I didn't had much idea. I had one question. The technologies have they have grown and they have evolved. but the concept, I think, of security has been in our culture, or let's say history of architecture. So would we be discussing about that factor also, how it has evolved through different generations or history, how we have picked up?
Dwelling on that so much, because what I am going to be discussing is going to be the base point. There are securities almost like a common sense function for the human. It is so basic to us that I will be talking about the basic aspects which you will see as they grow, that you will probably not feel the need for us to go through history. And I will be very happy if you want to shed light on the history aspect of it as we go further. But given the kind of things that we have to cover over 15 hours, which is not too much time, so I don't think I'll be able to dwell on that very long.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah? Any other questions? Any other points?
Ma'am, Kritika here.
Yeah, Kritika.
Ma'am, I was asking, like, for example, taking metro station. Ma'am, metro station seems like they are designed for security. And as you were talking about security theater, and is it giving a feeling of security? Like, it seems they are giving security, but it's also like you were saying, once if you enter the building, how it can be secured if you have already entered. So they are also somewhat similar to. So are they giving the feeling
You
of
are right. Already your minds are ticking and your brain has started questioning security. Good. So it's good. And as we go further in the next couple of days, you will start asking many, many more questions. And only when we ask questions do we drive change. Get my point? As long as we are sitting quiet and smug and oh, everything is fine, okay, everything is okay, ऐसे ही तो होता है, ऐसे ही तो होता है is not the answer. अगर ऐसे ही तो होता ना, तो अभी तक हमारे पंखे अभी भी वो सीलिंग में ऐसे ऐसे झल रहे होते, और आजकल की और वो गंदे गंदे विंडो एसीज गड़गड़ 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 करके हमारी एलिवेशन खराब कर रहे होते. After all, somebody like us questioned it. We asked them कि भाई हमें नहीं चाहिए ये, हमें आप एयर कंडीशनर ऐसा दो जो कि छुप जाए, जो कि सीलिंग में चला जाए, जो कि मुझे दिखे ना, और दिखे तो सुंदर दिखे. इसलिए आपके जनरेशन को एसीज इतने सुंदर सुंदर खूबसूरत दिख रहे हैं, जो हमारी जनरेशन में नहीं होते थे. सस्ते भी हो गए, हमारे टाइम पे तो बहुत महंगे होते. So it is because architects asked for it that the air conditioning companies researched for it, right? It's because the architect said मुझे पूरी बिल्डिंग ग्लास की बनानी है, बट मुझे क्लाइमेट फ्रेंडली ग्लास चाहिए, मुझे इन्वायरमेंट फ्रेंडली ग्लास चाहिए. तो ग्लास कंपनीज ने इन्वायरमेंट फ्रेंडली करके दुनिया भर की कॉन्फ्रेंसेस कर डाली. So same way, you and me together are going to drive the camera companies and the frisking ballet companies and all the other companies to develop things the way we want them to be. Get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Kritika?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So, any other questions for today? Okay, so I'm sure you'll have questions.
Sorry, ma'am. This is Shamla.
We will get more and more questions as we go forward. Keep them, write them down. We will start the class tomorrow with questions. Okay? Yeah, Shamla.
Actually, ma'am, I had an opinion towards like this, seeing the first time this Secure by Design poster, that it was something very, technical and then very advanced kind of, like a technology and all. For the like the poster and then the contents which was given, I thought it was very complex to understand. So actually I felt you like make the things contents make it much more easier to understand. And then like, and one more question I had, like whatever further more we learn, like usually whatever we design, it is meant for the clients, right? So whatever we learn here, like can it be, easily conveyable to the clients as to what exactly, can be,
What
made secure to
yes,
their building and
how will
things?
you sell this concept to them is what you're asking, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, like to understandable for the normal people.
Capture here, and I will capture it further as we go along, is that what is the benefit to them for keeping these things in it, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Just like when you tell somebody that you should have a green building, why do you sell the idea to them? Why do people want to have green buildings nowadays? Why do they want to have LEED platinum rated building or LEED gold rated building? Tell me. Why?
Ma'am, it's like the main reason is that make it much more, climate responsive.
Do
And
they
then
care about the climate? Do you think that the people who build these buildings really care about the climate?
Is it about the energy?
Energy conservation.
Yes. So number one is that they feel that making a green building will save them some money. Because bottom line is all they care about first and foremost is the money. So one, we are telling them that we are going to save you 15 to 20% of your cost. Two, we tell them that you will save every day of the running costs. Because we will cut down your running costs. There is not even any research which can tell you how much, probably 75% of the cost. Okay. So that is number two. Number three, most people, why they go for LEED rated building nowadays is because it has become the norm. If you don't have a LEED rated building, then your place will sell lesser than the other place. Correct? So there is that prestige attached that, it's the done thing to have a LEED rating. So same way, probably 10 years from now, everybody will want a secure rated building because the clients will demand that I want to live only in a secure rated building. I want to go to a hotel only which is secure rated. I feel secure only in a secure rated building. I don't know about the other place. Is it really secure? Am I really going to be safe in there, or is it going to blow up tomorrow while I'm living in it? You get my point? So that's the third point. So the third point is that if you know that a mall is 5-star secure rated, you will prefer to go to a 5-star secure rated mall or to a 2-star secure rated mall, or to a which is not rated. Especially like today, when we are sitting on the brink of Republic Day, in Republic Day, what happens is Delhi, Mumbai are on high alert. Most metros are on high alert. So, a lot of parents tell their children, beta, aajkal don't go to the mall and this, because it's very high security and it's not safe. You don't know what is going to happen. But if you have a mall which says, I am 5-star secure rated mall, please come, no problems, then you will also be happier, your parents will also be happier, the police authorities will also be happier. That yes, and that is the only way to end terror. How do you end terror? When you stop getting terrorized. Right? So these are three very important aspects. Fourth, if your building is secure, and I will show this to you, through case studies. If your building is secure rated and people want to invest in it and people want to come and buy a flat in it or a building, a shop in it or an office in it, then it becomes your project's biggest USP. People will even pay a premium to come into a building which is more secure than the other buildings, or it is certifiably more secure. It is known to be more secure. Get my point? So these are all aspects which we will learn as we go forward. And all this, everything finally comes down to money. Get my point? So these are all the aspects which will help you sell these concepts to your teachers, to your, right now, your teachers, and then later on your clients.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Right? Any other points?
Ma'am, one final question from my side.
Yeah, Shreya.
Okay.
Or should we keep it for tomorrow?
Okay, all right. I've already noted it down. We can talk about it too.
I'm asking Devanshi, our organizer, is it okay if I take this question or we want to keep it
Up
for
to you, ma'am. We're
It's
absolutely
fine.
okay
Yeah,
with it.
go for it, Shreya.
Okay, so ma'am, when we're talking about security, there are a lot of social factors that also come into play because a lot of it depends on the mindset of people, right? So as designers, are there any design interventions that we can do to sort of like influence that?
There is a lot, Shreya. Let me introduce you the basics. Okay? And then we will keep this discussion for the third week. Okay? All right. Anything else for now? Otherwise, think about it, sleep over it, and write down whatever are your questions. We'll start tomorrow's class with that. For me, your questions and answering your questions is more important than the content of my lecture. Get me? Okay? Because there's lots of time, and it's not your class. Every class that I have taken till now, I have learned from it. I don't know about the students. I'm sure they learned something, but I have definitely gained from it. So I look forward to your questions. I look forward to your wisdom. I look forward to your brilliant energies, and we will build on that going further. So that's it for now. Devanshi, we can close the session for today, I think. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for your time and efforts and the wonderful session. Thank you all the participants for being in the session all throughout and the backend team.